Welcome to the NJC's 10-minute takeaway, where we will try and cram in as much information as we can into a 10-minute workshop. I'm Tom Stenson, audit trainer and head of training for the NJC. And today I'm joined by Olly Tayler, who is a former traffic officer and lead investigator for serious and fatal collisions, and also co-founder of The Honest Truth. That was a bit of a mouthful. In today's topic, we are going to be discussing, are ADIs seen as road safety professionals? So what are your thoughts, Olly, then, for our industry as ADIs? Are we seen as road safety professionals?
Good afternoon, Tom. Sadly, I would suggest in the main no. However, the honest truth has very much gone against that and recognised really early on in the very early days of the honest truth, actually, the ADIs, just like yourself and your colleagues, are road safety professionals. There is absolutely no doubt about it in my mind. A very underutilised resource in the road safety world, and one that actually could be used an awful lot more.
And I think we're really lucky, actually, from an educational point of view, to be able to get many learners in those early stages of learning to drive to actually focus on road safety instead of just passing a test, which is something you and I mentioned a moment ago.
Yeah, Tom, you're absolutely right. As a former police officer and traffic officer for many, many years, I would have loved to have had the opportunity to have been able to sit next to every young driver for 30, 40 hours, to be able to talk to them about the risks that they're going to face when they don't have an ADI sat next to them anymore, when they have passed their test. But we can never hope to achieve that. However, ADIs are achieving that every single day all over the country. They are the golden egg for road safety, as far as I'm concerned. You have access to hundreds of thousands of young drivers every year through lessons and through courses of lessons. And what better way at that very teachable moment than to introduce some really key and critical road safety topics that young drivers need to know about. So when they haven't got you sat next to them as their voice of reason and telling them, you might want to slow down in a minute, that car in front's slowing down a bit quicker than us. And they have to make all those decisions on their own, often as not, with other distractions around them. Could be a radio on, could be mates in the car, could be absolutely anything. That they've got to be in a position to be able to make the right decision at the right moment in time, so they don't get involved in a collision, or they don't commit a road traffic offence and end up potentially losing their licence.
Yeah. And it's interesting because it links very much to another 10-minute takeaway myself and Stuart Lockery did recently on responsibility. And it's trying to get the pupil to not only take responsibility for their learning, but take on that responsibility that we as ADIs, we're not always going to be next to them. With some of them, we might only be there for 10, 20, 30, 40 hours, and they've got to have these life skills to make those decisions on their own, that are based on emotions and all those other distractions they're going to get.
No, absolutely. The one thing that I've learned, Tom, is that the ADI pupil relationship should not be underestimated. It is a unique relationship in that learn to drive journey, completely unique. One that there's only one place where you'll get that, and that is between the ADI and the pupil. And through the honest truth, what we've aimed to do is to be able to empower ADIs to open up debate and conversation around a set of topics. Currently 10 truths. There are another 3 on the way, which we're busy developing at the moment, to be able to give them as much information as possible as part of a course of driving lessons, not in addition to driving lessons. This is as part of a course of driving lessons, to become a natural part of a driving lesson, so that as well as learning how to drive and the mechanics of learning how to drive, those life skills that are associated with learning how to drive, which will keep them safe and keep their license safe, just as importantly, long after they pass their test, are embedded as a part of a course of lessons. It's not seen as an addition. Yes, it is part of a course of lessons. And the honest truth has just developed the app and the truths to be able to give ADIs a basis to work from, to be able to show the truth, to be able to show one of the truths at the very beginning of the lesson, to open up debate and topic about that particular behaviour within the driving world during that lesson. It might well be observed during the lesson. Great, what a brilliant way. There might be an occasion, I've certainly had occasions from ADIs that have come back to me and said, I've had a pupil who said this or who said that, and I thought, brilliant, I've got a truth that covers that. Right, let's talk about that truth. Let's show the video and talk about the truth. And suddenly it's almost as if the penny drops with a young person who goes, I hadn't really looked at it that way before. Because you've got Keenan and Sorella, 2 young people who are talking to young people. It's all very well someone like me talking about road safety. I'm old and crusty and grey. What do I know about anything? Let's be fair, just ask my sons. Whereas actually, young people talking to young people, they are far more likely to engage with that and far more likely to then open up and start to want to talk about these topics. And that's what we're seeing time and time again all over the country.
Mhm. And I know this is slightly off topic, but I think for me, why it's really important that younger people are coming into our industry as well. So they're sort of representative more of the generation that we're teaching. And I think the more that we can get to this younger generation, it's going to start to have a positive effect.
Absolutely, and again, it's really encouraging to see younger ADIs coming into the industry, and we've got a good number of them who are delivering the honest truth as well. So it's building that package, if you like, and and young people talking to people nearer their own age about their experiences and things like that. They're far more likely to actually take that information on board, and remember little snippets of information. I can still remember things my ADI taught me years ago,
Yeah,
and that ADI, people never forget their ADI. So let's be honest, that's the person. The ADI is the person who ultimately enabled them to have their freedom.
yeah,
They got them to pass their test, which interestingly brings me on to another point about the role of an ADI. Now, role of an ADI, let's be honest here, Tom, role of an ADI, often as not, in the eyes of a parent, whoever's paying for lessons is, can you get my son or daughter, whoever it might be, through the test as quickly and as cheaply as possible?
yeah,
Okay, false economics, completely false economics, because all that a test tells you is that you were good enough at that time on that day to pass the minimum DVSA standard. That's
yeah,
all it tells you. It tells you nothing
yeah.
more than that. And it certainly doesn't make you the best driver in the world.
No.
You learn how to drive properly, I think, once you pass your test, and you don't have that voice of conscience in your ear telling you what you should and shouldn't be doing. So to be able to equip new drivers with the skill set, with those life skills, to be able to make the right decision at the right moment in time once they pass their test can only be a good thing.
And it is such a shame that we've got that false economy, that we've got this generation and generation of people who do think like that. And I think that brings back to our original. I don't know whether the public see us as road safety professionals either. They sort of see us as, well, I'll go to Tom because he can get my son to pass his test. And that is again what we were talking about.
I think you're absolutely right, Tom. I really do. And this is why we've always said ADIs are road safety professionals. And for me, it is not to underestimate. As any ADI listening to that, don't underestimate, one, the power of that relationship you have with your pupils, but also the power of influence you have as an ADI to be able to educate the next generation of drivers, to be as safe as possible on the roads, and to try and hold on to their license as long as possible. You've got incredible power in your hands. Please use it wisely. And if that is by using something like the honest truth to deliver those road safety messages, absolutely fantastic. We welcome you with open arms.
I had a similar conversation actually with somebody recently, and what I was saying was that even if I teach 1,000 people to drive, but I only get through to one of them, I'm happy with that result. I would prefer 99% to be successful, but if I can just get through to one person who will then go on and perhaps not have an accident or is going to be a more successful driver, that makes me feel better. But I'd like those percentages to be much higher.
Yeah, and that's an interesting way of looking at it, Tom, without a doubt. Because actually, one young person who doesn't get involved in a serious or fatal collision as a result of education that an ADI has given them, and information an ADI has given them, is one less grieving family that's out there. And I've met enough grieving families to know what it does to families. So one less grieving family is great. 100 less grieving families is incredible. 1,000 less grieving families is phenomenal.
Yeah.
So actually, if every single ADI in the country was able to get through to one of their pupils and they did one thing differently and didn't get involved in a serious or fatal collision, that's thousands of families that don't have to go through a lifetime of heartache and pain of losing a son or daughter or a young person in a road traffic collision, either as a driver or as a passenger, or as an offender in a road traffic collision. I've dealt with them as offenders and seen young people go to prison for what they've done. So it's not just about as victims, it's about as offending drivers as well. So it's really important that road safety education forms a key part of a series of driving lessons. Those life skills are as important as those mechanical skills, without a shadow of a doubt in my mind.
And if we've got 40 plus thousand ADIs on the register, those numbers soon start adding up, don't they?
They absolutely do. They really do. And every single truth that is delivered is a road safety intervention. That's a one-to-one road safety intervention, no doubt whatsoever. We're now up to getting on towards 7,000 truths delivered since the app was launched 6 months ago. That's 7,000 one-to-one road safety interventions with the most vulnerable on our roads. That's incredible. We want to make it 170,000.
So if you could give one extra bit of advice to ADIs to take away to try and improve road standards for learner drivers, what would it be?
Tom, I think it would be, like I said, don't underestimate the power you hold as an ADI to influence the behaviour and intent of the next generation of drivers through good quality road safety education.
Fantastic. Well, that is the end of our 10 minutes. Can I just say thank you very much for joining us today. And if anybody watching or listening would like any more information, then please have a look in the information or comments below. Thanks again for joining us.
You're welcome.